For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the Insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber. This is Derrick Evans. We got a great show together for you today, and it's yet another wonderful day in America's new golden age.
Yes, it is, Mike. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe, all those good things. Whatever platform you're watching on, if you're watching live, hop in the comments. I read all the comments. I'll do my very best to give you guys a shout out, kind of like this. We are already in the Rumble chat. We've got Kelly Song, Dan Dreyer, and Jay Keeps asking. And then over here in the Getter chat, we got Obliviously and Sean kicking things off. And then in the X chat, we got Harry Merchant. And then in the other X chat, we've got Thaddeus, Ella, and Kristen. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as Mike said, we've got an awesome show lined up for you guys here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, expect the left to melt down even more if that's possible today, because the Supreme Court finally stepped in. They ruled against Boasberg, and they're allowing Trump to deport migrants under the Alien Enemies Act. So get ready to see more lawsuits fly and the left even more apoplectic. This is exactly what's needed to happen. And really, SCOTUS needs to step in on a number of these other personnel decisions and other things just to put an end to this. And I mean, again, we've talked about it, ad nauseum, that these district court judges do not have the authority to impact the entire nation. They think they're co-equal to the president. And it's time to stop in, to have SCOTUS step in and put an end to this insanity.
Yeah, and one of the missing things in the story, I think anyways, is the fact that it was a 5-4 decision. John Roberts actually sided with President Trump on this. Of course,
shocking.
Amy Coney Barrett lets us down once again. She is a total turd of a nominee. And you know what's frustrating about her specifically is the left fought so hard to keep her out. Like we all like really defended her, went to bat for her to get her on in that position, and then she just obviously hates President Trump. It's obvious, and does whatever she can to undermine him. But in a 5-4 decision, they did side with President Trump. This is huge because now they can actually ramp up the deportations even more without having to worry about this side of it, anyways. At least for the criminal illegal aliens. They're all criminals because they all invaded our country. But this is huge, and now they can kind of pin their ears back, put more funding into that, and the unknown, I guess, surrounding this is now taken off the table. It's full steam ahead, and I expect to see things ramp up from here.
Yeah, and we really need to see a ramp up on deporting the less criminal illegal aliens, the ones that only invaded the country. I want to start seeing some action there, especially in these enclaves where they deposited 5,000 to 20,000 people. It's time to start going in door to door, rounding them up and sending them back to wherever they came from. I do have a video I want to play real quick, though. This was Stephen Miller's response. This is great. Let me just go ahead and run this.
This was a huge, a monumental victory for President Trump. The biggest legal win of this administration so far. A total embarrassment for crazy Judge Boasberg, who's been trying to force this president to bring foreign alien terrorists back onto American soil, trying to turn our planes around, trying to empty prisons in foreign countries and bring them back to our soil. This is a monumental, colossal victory for the rule of law, for the Constitution, for our founding generation, John Adams, who signed this law into effect in 1798, and for President Trump in fulfilling his mandate and campaign pledge. What does this mean for you and your family watching at home tonight? It means that the Department of Justice, FBI, DEA, ATF, the U.S. Marshal Service, Customs and Border Protection, Border Patrol, and Immigrations and Customs Enforcement now have maximum authority to find and remove illegal alien gang members from Venezuela that have been responsible for so much misery in this country, for the torture and murder of Jocelyn Ungary, for the brutal slaying of Laken Riley. Those monsters can now be hunted down and expelled from this country with speed, force, and efficiency. This is a great day for America, Sean.
He's exactly right.
Stephen Miller he's been an excellent voice this entire time. He has such a great way of explaining things as well. He's been fantastic. I've been possibly, he might be the one I've been the most impressed with so far out of all the people that's in this Trump 2.0 cabinet, if you will. But I wanted to read a couple comments over here. Dan Dreyer says, disappointed it was a 5-4 vote, but a win is a win. And then remember that look that Amy Coney Barrett, gave Trump. And yes, I definitely remember that. Jay keeps asking, says, yup, my husband called it, said ACB would go against Trump. I'm really disappointed in her, but figure it has something to do with her family. And in the X chat, West Virginia Nighthawk says ACB is RGB 2.0. Apparently at this point, she seems like a plant. And American Nordiska man says already started to expect it from her. And then Kristen says Miller is a rock star. And I have to agree. Stephen Miller has been an absolute rock star so far. And to exactly what he said, I know that we're all wanting to see more deportations. We first have to keep things in perspective. We have deported at least over 100,000. This was as of mid-March. Over 100,000 criminal illegal aliens, if you will, the worst of the worst. That's not a small number to necessarily sniff out. I know we all want more. Even President Trump has said that as well. This kind of, I think, has been one of the speed bumps that we had to get over before we can push our foot on the gas moving forward. So this is a huge win, and I fully expect them to really ramp up the deportations, at least in this classification of people moving forward.
Yeah, and this is yet another example, too, where we really need Congress to step in and do something instead of, taking endless breaks. It'd be nice to see, E-Verify enforced nationally, remove all illegal aliens from any type of welfare benefits or anything else. Basically force them to go home on their own. And then that also saves us money in more ways than one. But, yet again, we see the courts, the left, using the courts to fight for the rights of illegal aliens over Americans. Yet again, it's blatantly obvious at this point. They wonder why their approval is only at 23%. But we also have this from regarding Boasberg. Senator Schmidt floats Senator Schmidt floats Judge Boasberg may have tipped off Venezuelan gang member deportation case. So this is interesting, and he does have some, I would call it like circumstantial evidence, but he's also looking into how did Boasberg get assigned this case. It's another question we've been asking, and the DOJ's asked too, is how does this guy keep getting these critical cases against the Trump administration? How come they're always assigned to him? Well, Schmidt seems to think that there is some evidence to suggest he's using his position as a lead judge there in the District of D.C. to cherry pick, grab whatever cases he wants instead of having them assigned randomly. And again, if this happened, it's time to step in, remove the court staff there, put somebody in that will actually adhere to the law and start randomly assigning these cases, so they're not all going to dedicated hardcore leftists that are going to ignore the rule of law, ignore legal precedent, and just insert their opinion into everything they're doing.
Well, absolutely. And look, once again, Speaker Johnson has admitted that the U.S. House specifically, but Congress, in general, is in charge of funding these district courts. I think it's time to defund them if this is the way that they're going to go. And look, if they want to all appeal to the Supreme Court here's what, 70 to 80 cases a year. They're never going to get there. So just defund these district courts and say, appeal it to the Supreme Court if you want to, and just start doing whatever the heck it is that you want to do in terms of by the Constitution, obviously. I think that MAGA has proven that we are not a cult as much as the left wants to say that we are, that, we have no problem calling out President Trump when he's doing things that we disagree with. And if he were to start doing things that were unconstitutional, I think that you would start hearing a lot of noise from those of us in the MAGA movement calling that out as well. So I don't understand why we're continuing to fund these people who are actively working against the Constitution, working against the safety of our country. And but as you said, this is a huge win with all of this. I want to see an investigation into Boasberg. Heck, I've already said, I'm on the record multiple times, I want to see the guy arrested at this point, but an investigation would be a great start. And if nothing else, at least defund the D.C. District Court that has been proven time and time again to be 100% corrupt against conservatives in this country. Why are we continuing to fund them at this point? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's only furthering harm to our nation and to the American people. Well, the court yesterday gave the American people another victory. New appeals court halts Biden judge's injunction allowing Doge workers to access sensitive information. So essentially, this appeals court is now going to allow Doge into the Department of Education, the Office of Personnel Management, and allow them access to other records at the Treasury and Social Security. So this is huge. This is, again, where they're trying to block them every step of the way because they don't want more of their money laundering discovered. They don't want more things uncovered that the American people are going to be furious about. They don't want to confirm. They don't want Doge to have the ability to confirm how much money was going from the Department of Education to, blackmail schools into putting, litter boxes in bathrooms, letting men in the women's room, and funding DEI initiatives throughout the country. So they're using the courts every step of the way just to stymie and slow walk this stuff out. And it's time to put an end to that. No more of this. Again, we've seen numerous videos from Barack Obama and others talking about all the corruption, all the waste, fraud, and abuse that goes on at government. Now something finally being done about it, and they're all freaking out.
Absolutely. Quick shout out to Mazzella over here in the X chat says, I like to think that the DOJ and Cash are investigating them behind the scenes. It's too odd to ignore. I would agree with that. Here's the thing, back to what you just said, though, about the Doge thing. The left and the establishment, I guess you could say, they are choosing some of the weirdest things to cling on to. And yes. Doge is one of them. I don't understand why they are so upset. Well, we do, but I don't understand why they're actually saying it out loud that they're upset over us looking into government waste, fraud, and abuse. That makes zero sense to me that this is something that they are interested in defending, if you will. And then the other thing is the criminal illegal aliens. I'm for deporting every single man, woman, and child who's here illegally. I don't care how long they've been here. I don't care how old they are. None of those things, if they've broken any other laws since they've been here. But I would at least understand if they were saying don't deport children or don't deport this person who's been here for 40 years. I'm in favor of it, but I would understand why they would try to paint that narrative. But right now they are defending and saying that we should have gang members, rapists, and murderers and terrorists brought back to our country. Yeah. That, once again, they're like the most extreme versions of these things are what they're clinging on to. It makes zero sense whatsoever to me. I don't understand where they're coming from at all.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. It isn't just that they want to protect them, that they want to make sure they each get individual trials and the full due process, even though they broke into our country. It's that they're picking the worst of the worst and demanding we re-import murderers, rapists, and thugs that have warrants out and committed crimes, not just here, but internationally. And this is the hill they picked to die on. I'm never going to understand it. And, maybe there's a piece of the puzzle we're all missing and it'll make perfect sense. But I do think it's tied to them just wanting to flood the country and create more division, more violence, more things that they can exploit to raise money on for future elections and to capitalize on. I think that's really the end of the day. They just want to destroy America, and this is a powerful tool being taken out of their arsenal to do so. But what would I know? Yeah. But Doge being allowed to actually get into all these departments, uncover all this waste, fraud, abuse, money laundering. And, Elon Musk has stated several times now that they are working with the DOJ, and we'll see some arrests, hopefully soon. But, and in connection to how some of these money laundering plots work with the NGOs. I should have pulled this video, but yeah, he said, most of it is on the left, but there's some on the right that are going to be taken down too. Well, I'm ready for it. I'm here for it all day. I've got popcorn in the other room. I can pop it at any time, and I'm ready to watch these people get frog marched out of Congress.
Well, the real question is though, with that popcorn, do you have RFK approved real butter, or do you have the margarine stuff? You better have the real butter over there.
I'm not sure. I did get it from the Amish grocery store though, so I'll have to check.
Oh, then it's real, man. It's freshly churned. I want to give a quick shout out to Lock the Moon over here in the Getter chat, and then Jay keeps asking, brings up a really good point over here too. Says Jay keeps asking, says, I think every congressman and senator who objects to tariffs or DOGE, including Republicans, are those with something to hide, sort of like insider trading and or money laundering, obviously. And I agree with that as well. And we do have to remember that as the courts have been fighting back against DOGE, once again, trying to prevent them from doing these things, saying, well, the president doesn't have authority to do this, has to pass Congress. You have to remember our Republican-controlled Congress just a month or so ago voted to codify into law these DOGE cuts to make it official, to where it would take that away from the courts. The courts could not have anything to say about it. And our Republican-controlled Congress voted it down. They voted against making this the actual law of the land. And so, to Jay keeps asking his point, why would those Republicans of all people vote against that? Well, obviously they have something to hide. That would be the only, or even if they're not hiding it, they are self-enriching them and their families through this in some way or another. The money's going to the NGOs. It's coming back to a family business or whatever. Who knows? But we obviously that's the only logical explanation as to why they would vote against making these DOGE cuts, part of permanent law. And they all run on small government. They all run on MAGA. They all ran on all these things. But you have to start paying attention to how these people vote, because we have some snakes in our own party as well over here on the Republican side, and it's our job to call them out and hold them accountable.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And this gets back to the central point of Congress needs to do their job, that President Trump can't do all this on his own. It can't just be Trump and Musk finding this corruption and then nothing done about it. Otherwise, the minute Trump's out of office, it's all going to go back into effect just like it was. And, I think that's where some of these Republicans are, is that they like the status quo. They like being able to funnel money through the executive branch to friends and family and causes they like and all that. They like that, and they like the lack of accountability, since Congress has refused to do their job for 30 plus years and actually allocate funding for specific items under these government departments. But again, that's because they've gotten used to the idea of using independent regulatory agencies instead of passing laws and everything else. But with some of the Supreme Court decisions, everything else, they're going to have to go back to doing their job and actually voting and approving these things. No more hiding to try to make it easier for you to win your next election. But yeah, I think uncovering a lot of this stuff and just exposing it, especially money that's going to friends, family of Congress people, that's going to give the Trump administration a lot of power to hold it over their head. Because again, the American people are going to be furious once these things are confirmed.
That's exactly right. And once again, I mean, to your point, even if we win all these court battles along the way, as soon as a Democrat gets in charge, they're just going to revoke that, and we're going to go right back to where we were. But if we put this into law and actually, codify it and make it a part, then they would have to actually propose a bill to bring back government waste, fraud, and abuse and vote on it, which is a totally different thing. So it's frustrating that we have that. I mean, sometimes I ask myself, with Republicans like we have, who needs Democrats? I mean, at the end of the day, with all the rhinos that we have, who needs Democrats? They're already doing it. Every single person who voted against making that official should be primaried. Every single Republican who voted against that should be primaried. I don't even know who they all are, but they should be primaried and held accountable. So it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I think that's really what we're going to have to do. Now, I have heard that the plan to make some of these cuts permanent is going to be with the next budget they pass in, I don't know, June, July, August. I can't remember what the extension was out to right now. But even then, that's going to be a giant fight. That's going to mean the Democrats are going to try to hold the country hostage, threaten to shut down the government again, because we're taking some of their pieces of pie away from them, that they'll no longer be able to launder money through all these government entities, that USAID will be gone. If that's the case, I mean, I guess that's a fight we have to have, but I'd rather see some courage out of Congress and start taking care of at least some of this now, some of the easiest ones that we should be able to agree on. And then when the Democrats go nuts, again, we just pin this on them. I think the American people are starting to understand that that's where a lot of the problem comes from, especially with wasting our money, our tax dollars. And as we're getting victories on the tariffs and victories in other places, it's time to start using that political capital to make some of these changes permanent and fix the problem, so that Congress won't be able to exploit these loopholes and these rulings again to their favor when someone else is in office.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what needs to happen. But who knows if it ever will. I've been saying it for a while. The biggest issue with this next Trump administration, or the one that we're in now, is not going to be the Democrats. It's going to be the rhinos stabbing us in the back. That's going to be our biggest issue moving forward. And not just them, but the courts, obviously. Luckily, we're winning some of these court battles, as we just have covered here on the show. Which is awesome, but we've got a long ways to go. There's going to be multiple court battles along the way. The next one is they're going to say that we can't deport people who are just here illegally. And then I did see earlier today on that same note that the Trump administration announced that for any illegal who is here and refuses to self-deport, they will be fined $998 a day. I think is what it was. It was up to $1,000 a day. Now, how we're going to, charge them and get the money, I don't really know, but I would imagine, that they could confiscate that out of bank accounts once they are. And I'm just speaking from my own experience. Whenever, I went through being arrested with January 6th, I had to turn over all my bank information. So I'd imagine that that's the same thing for them, and maybe they could just take it right out of their bank account. I don't know, but hopefully. I would say that they're partly doing it more of a deterrence, like go ahead and encouraging these people to deport on their own anyways. But, man, that could rack up pretty quick, and to where, they could take all their savings or anything. Like if you were here illegally and that, and you haven't deported yet, like you should be thankful that you're able to steal all the money that you've been able to steal from our country. And go ahead and self-deport now and take that and go back to your home country and use that little nest egg that you've built up here as a way to, start your new life in your old country and use that as a jump start, if you will. That would be the smart decision to make, as opposed to being greedy and staying here and then getting caught and then losing all of that money. That would be the smart thing to do, is just go ahead and deport.
Yeah. And I totally agree with this, because I think taking back any resources we can that were already wasted on these invaders, that should be the path we go. But yeah, let them self-deport. That's cheaper for all of us. That's cheaper than the flights. I listened to kind of an interesting breakdown on this over the weekend, I think. Might have been last Friday. But, one of the things they were suggesting is allowing people to come in and self-deport, because the flights would only cost us, I don't know what they said, the average like $5,000 something per family to send them back home to wherever, whereas we have to go round them up and house them and all that. The cost doubles or triples depending on where they're at, how long till their next flight, how long we've got to house them in these centers. That just letting people come in, flying them back to wherever, and eating that cost would be a great way to just end the problem or end the bulk of it. I'm down for that. Anything that can help us fix this, we need to pursue those avenues. Guys, we got to take a quick break here from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with even more.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Guys, thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs here on X American News is by supporting our sponsors. Mike Lindell and all his employees at MyPillow are back in the crosshairs again since he's floated the idea of running for governor of Minnesota. I'd love to see Mike Lindell take out Tampon Tim, but Mike and his employees need your support right now. So go to mypillow.com or mystore.com. You can support Mike, support his efforts for free and fair elections, and support his effort to save Minnesota in America. Use code Insurrection for the deepest discounts, and go get yourself some My Towels, some My Pillows, or go to my store and buy some products from Americans here at home, small manufacturers, small producers, small businesses, and let's help make America great again together. All right, guys. Well, we got more fallout from the tariffs. Tariff war has just begun. Beijing's counter tariff options against Trump leaked by bloggers. And the quick version of this is they don't seem to have a lot of good options. There's already unrest within their own country. People are worried about losing their jobs, losing the little bit of prosperity they've been granted by the communist regime there, and worried about going backwards. People in rural areas, they want a bigger piece of prosperity there. China is on the verge in a lot of ways, and I think this really could push them over the edge to where they're dealing with civil strife within their own country and are forced to take their eyes off Taiwan.
Absolutely. Well, I want to quickly state that Obliviously in the Getter chat has an awesome idea. It says, Dog the Bounty Hunter immigration series on TV would be a good idea. And actually,
yes.
You know what? They could even put it on pay-per-view, and we could use that money to help fund the deportations. I would not only buy that pay-per-view thing, I would leave it on loop. Like, my TV would never change channels. It would just stay on there because I don't watch much TV anyways. I would do it just to help the ratings and the advertisers to raise more money to help the deportation. So I think the American people would honestly get behind that. I'm not even joking when I say that.
Oh yeah.
But back to the China thing. So there's a couple things, and I haven't heard anybody really talking about this part of it. So China has literally come out and said that America is bullying them with the tariffs. So I found that a fascinating comment, because the only way that somebody could bully someone else is if they are bigger and stronger and, those sorts of things. Like the person getting bullied is usually the weaker one, whether that's mentally, physically, whatever. And so China is basically admitting to the world that we are the world superpower economically here, because that's the only way that if they were the superpower, they would not be able to be bullied by us. And so they are admitting that we are the world superpower in terms of economic power at the very least, and economic strength. So I thought that was interesting. And then there was a lot from this. I'm frustrated that we wasted 4 years under Biden. So if there was one good thing that came from COVID, was the supply chain issue. China right now manufactures a lot of our pharmaceuticals, like the antibiotics, for instance. We have a lot of our chips being made in Taiwan, which is creating an issue of situation here with China, as they are wanting to take Taiwan, and we're depending on Taiwan. So that's creating an issue here. I think it should be treated as a matter of national security at this point. Obviously, we can't make everything here. But the things that are considered critical to the way of life in America, antibiotics would be one. These semiconductor chips would be one. These should be treated as a matter of national security. It should be all hands on deck, and they should be ramping up that production one way or another here in this country. I don't care what we have to do in order to get that to where we are no longer dependent on other countries. Even our so-called allies, we should not depend on other countries for anything that is considered critical to the way of life here in America. And I think it's a matter of national security at this point.
Yeah, and like you said, we've already seen the effect of not taking this more seriously, not doing something about it early during COVID. That was a great preview of what could happen if there is a world war against China or World War III or whatever else, that we need these things that are critical to our infrastructure to be created here. Like, yes, there are going to be certain things that we're not going to be able to produce here at home, vanilla from Madagascar, growing bananas, things like that we're always going to be dependent on other countries for, but it shouldn't be anything critical, from steel production to antibiotics to face masks to microprocessors. anything that would be critical for our defense or for furthering our way of life, we need to have at least some of it produced here at home. That doesn't mean we can't still buy some things from Taiwan or from other countries that are friendly to us where they already have production. But we do need to take into consideration like what we would need here on our own soil to fight a war or protect our way of life, and that needs to be produced here. In China's response already, like similar to other countries, the big part of the problem here isn't just the tariffs, it's the trade imbalance, and it's the fact that they don't allow U.S. companies to go into China and do business there the way we allow Chinese companies to come into the U.S. and do business here. So I don't care what they take. I hope China is suicidal and goes the path of increased tariffs, more trade barriers and everything else, because I don't think their country can stand it for very long, and they'll be begging for a better deal within just a few months.
Yeah, I love that Trump is now also stating that reciprocal tariffs are just a start in order to work out an agreement that we're going to have to figure out the trade deficit that we have with each other as well, which I think is huge. There's nobody in China that are driving American-made cars or anything else for that matter. I doubt that you see anything in China that says "Made in America." There's just no way that happens, and so we have huge trade deficits with these countries. And President Trump has said, "Hey, we're going to close that up." We know that over 70 countries have already reached out wanting to make a deal. South Korea, President Trump announced earlier this morning before we came on air that South Korea has a delegation on the way to the United States right now as we speak. They might have already landed. I'm not for sure. And they've already said that they are not going to retaliate, if you will, in terms of the tariffs, that they would rather come in on good faith and say, hey, let's figure this out and work a deal out and do that. That's the way that it's supposed to be done. China wanting to get over here and start getting into this peeing match with us is going to be bad news for them because, quite frankly, start paying attention to how many things that you find in this country that are made in China. They cannot afford to do that, if you will, and they're getting really testy with it. And I would love for us to kind of just cut them off completely. I don't want to be dependent on them for anything, as far as I'm concerned. We need to start focusing on other countries. South Korea has been one of those countries that I think has shown good faith to President Trump, and I think that's why they are getting one of the first cracks at striking a trade deal with us.
Yeah, agreed. Something else that we're seeing happen because of China's stance on this is a lot of companies that do produce huge amounts of goods, whether this is like consumer electronics, appliances, things like that. In China, they're now offshoring it. They're going to start producing goods for the U.S. in other countries that are willing to negotiate, are willing to take down the trade barriers and the tariffs, just so that they won't be affected by it. And again, this is another series of huge blows to China's economy. And again, we got to remember their economy has been teetering on the verge of collapse for months now. And something major like this, I don't think they can necessarily recover from. But yeah, art of the deal. Dozens of foreign powers negotiate for free trade instead of retaliation. And this is what we're starting to see. Like, again, I know the media and a lot of America's enemies were cheering for the opposite. They wanted every country to, hold their ground and retaliate with bigger tariffs against the U.S. or block trade completely. They're rooting for America's demise and thus the demise of the Western world. But that isn't what is happening, because most of these countries know they've got to look out for their own self-interest. Without the U.S. As a trading partner, they'll slide off into recession, depression, or even worse.
Absolutely. We'll give a quick shout out to Austin the Cold Cracker over here in the X chat, and then in the Getter chat we've got Money 465. Appreciate you guys for tuning in over here. But yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of people who've been cheering and rooting. A lot of people in our own country who thought that this was going. They would rather see our country collapse than for President Trump to be correct and or successful in some way or another. That's how evil these people really are. At the end of the day, I don't understand where they're coming from on that. But as we're seeing. This is all working out in our favor, and this is just a start. It's going to be long-term success. I'm trying to remember. It was a rancher in, I believe it was. I don't want to say the state. It was a rancher that was on the news. I posted about it. There were a couple of them, but this one specifically, somewhere out west, where he was talking about how we do not have access as ranchers in America to sell our beef in Australia. but they flood our market with billions and billions of dollars worth of beef every single year, undercutting the American farmers. But we're not even allowed. It's not like we can, but it's tariffed. Even like we're not even allowed to send beef over there and trade over there. And so he was just talking about that as well. These are things that most of us, and the shrimping industry the same way. These are things that we don't think about on a regular basis unless you're in that industry as to how much it's affecting you, or the American businesses, if you will. But it's going to be an amazing opportunity for us to restructure and reset, if you will, these global trade things. But yeah, China actually went and has publicly whined to the World Trade Organization, saying that America is bullying them. And I hope that President Trump tells the World Trade Organization where to go in that regard as well, because when it comes down to it, America, by far the largest economy in the entire world, we are the World Trade Organization. If you don't have access to the American economy, then you are not going to be nearly as successful as a business from another country. And so we need to hold our ground. And now we're going to be having these conversations. President Trump has already said that some of these countries are offering things up that he never would have even dreamed of asking for before these tariffs and such went into place. And that just goes to show that now President Trump is going to be negotiating from a position of power on behalf of our country. And there's a huge difference there. There's absolutely nobody in this world that I would trust to negotiate on behalf of our country in terms of business dealings than President Trump himself. We are so blessed and fortunate to have him in charge of our country in a time such as this. You're muted, brother.
Sorry about that. Last night I listened to something that was pretty interesting regarding specifically food products from the United States going to other countries and how much it affects the price of goods at home. So in Canada, for example, like the price of chicken, pork, beef, a lot of products like that is nearly double what it is in the U.S. And that's even when you account for the Canadian dollar do. But that opening up trade with the U.S. would also be great for their people there because it would dramatically reduce the cost of food and basic goods. They also talked about the U.K. and Europe, how they've banned the importation of chicken from the U.S. or as severely limited, going all the way back to basically shortly after the Second World War. The chicken might have been actually the 1960s, but some of the other foods were basically going back to the end of the Second World War, what they've limited or banned importation. But opening these markets would be great for American farmers, but it'd also be good for the people in a lot of these nations that aren't able to produce food at the same level we are at or at the same cost as we can. And you could do it without really affecting their farmers at home. So again, I think at the end of the day, when some of these barriers are taken down and tariffs are removed and everything else, this will once again be something that's not just good for America, but it's good for most other countries around the world, that it will reduce the cost to their people, especially the poorest among them. It'll introduce new goods to their market, new opportunity. And I think once these things are kind of leveled out, that'll also add to new jobs within other countries and here, just as nations start looking out for their own self-interest, producing more things at home, just like we are. At the end of the day, this is going to strengthen not just us, but the entire world.
Yeah, and Sean over in the Getter Chat says, I don't want CCP beef. I don't either. And so it kind of brings up another thing Thomas Massey's pushing right now. So previously, our Congress, for whatever reason, removed the country of origin label from food products. No idea why. We know they're getting some sort of kickbacks to do that. Yes. So you no longer know. Once before, you could go in, you could look at food, and it would say, beef, for instance, that it was from China or Korea or Australia, wherever. And look, if you wanted to buy that, sure, go ahead. I'm willing to pay more to make sure that it's American grown food for multiple different reasons. But everybody's not like that. That's fine. But Thomas Massey's bringing it back up now that we need to reinstitute, with all this going on, the trade wars and all these things going on, that we should bring back the country of origin labeling. And we absolutely should. There's absolutely no reason not to have that in place. I think that we should all get behind Thomas Massey on that and help him make some noise in that regard, because I think it's better for all of us if we know where this food is coming from. And I think people would be shocked. And then another trick that they've been doing is even food that's grown in America is being shipped to China and other places to then be processed there and then shipped back to America because it's actually cheaper for them to do that. You can only imagine the sort of conditions that they are doing that in, not to mention that you have, that's not live animals. So they're killing the animals here, they're slaughtering them here, shipping them to other countries to where now that meat is processed there, and then it's shipped back over here. And then even under the country of origin label, it's saying that it was, this is American beef or whatever. Well, it technically is because it was grown here, but it was not processed here. And that should not be, they should not be able to deceive people that way, not to mention just the contaminants and everything else by shipping dead animals across the ocean to be processed and then shipped back and packaged and then be shipped back. This whole thing is crazy. We don't need to buy food from China or anywhere else. We need to start supporting American farmers, and we need to make that a priority to do so. And furthermore, there's all this whole talk about SNAP and all these things right now about not being able to buy the unhealthy foods, which I agree with, by the way, because now we're buying proven foods that are going to cause health conditions, and then we have to turn around and pay for those medical bills for those same people as well because they don't have jobs or whatever for various different reasons. That's a whole other argument. But I'm sitting here wondering right now if we should require SNAP benefits to be spent on American food to support American farmers. Why, once again, are you still my tax dollars giving it to someone else for them to buy food, which I'm fine with helping people who are in need 100%. My family was there at one point when I was growing up when the coal mines were shut down. Okay, I perfectly fine with helping people in a time of need. It's not supposed to be your profession, but at the same time, why are you stealing my money and giving it to people, and then they're turning around and buying all these products from other countries when there's an American alternative that you could support? So I think that's something we should look into doing, as well as using the SNAP benefits to help support American farmers as well.
Yeah, and I think with the SNAP benefits and other welfare in general, it's time to go back to a system of shame. You know what? You shouldn't be proud to be receiving welfare benefits. You should be doing whatever you can to get yourself off the programs. Go back to WIC years ago when I was a cashier at Myers. They used to come in with the little coupons for specific items. They could get a gallon of milk, a pound of cheese, a box of pasta, however many pounds of ground beef. Go back to that. Just make people that are receiving benefits, make it uncomfortable for them, make them only be able to receive healthy products that are made in the United States, so the money stays here, benefits U.S. farmers, and get things back under control. No more of this welfare debit card nonsense. I honestly think every time somebody comes in to pay with your money, they ought to have an alarm go off at that cash register so everybody can turn and look at who's sapping the economy dry and refusing to work. But, maybe that's a little too harsh for some people. All right, guys, we got to take one more quick break, hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with even more.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. But I'm sure for this, I hope I'll see you at lutfstudio.com.
Again, the best way to support our program and all the programs on X American News is by supporting our sponsors. Go to lutfstudios.com right now. Get yourself a unique, handmade, one-of-a-kind piece of art that'll become a treasured heirloom to future generations, handmade by our great producer and host here on X American News, Annie Cyrus. Let's go ahead and jump to this. You sent me this last night, and again, this is almost unbelievable, but DOJ reveals would-be Trump assassin Ryan Routh tried to purchase a Stinger missile from Ukrainian to take out Trump. also discussed July assassination attempt in PA with operative before his failed attempt in September. So again, like this just opens up so many questions. And then I got another one to throw on here too. I keep hearing that what is it? Mark Kelly has the files on the Trump first Trump assassination attempt and is refusing to release them. I guess he's keeping them in a safe in his office. What the hell is that all about?
Yeah, it's wild. And look, these are the DOJ revealed this, posted about it. There's documents here. I'm going to read just a little bit of those documents from the Ron Ruth situation. In August 2024, this is according to the documents for the record that the DOJ released. In August of 2024, Ruth attempted to acquire anti-aircraft weapons as direct evidence of his assassination attempt. That month, Ruth sought to purchase the devices online from associate Ruth believed to be a Ukrainian with access to military weapons. Also, during this time, Ruth told his associate to send me an RPG or Stinger, and I'll see what we can do. Trump is not good for Ukraine. And then he goes on to say, I need equipment so that Trump cannot get elected. And then says, however, you are at war, so those items lost and destroyed daily, one missing, would not be noticed. Do you really think that Trump will be good for Ukraine? My question in all of this is that I think nobody's really talking about is, did Zelensky know about this? Okay. And there's a video from 2022 that I also posted of Ruth being in Ukraine. And there's not really any information in the video. I just posted along with that to prove that he has actually traveled there. He's been there, does have some sort of connections and ties there, and that he was making these requests not as an empty request, but he's actually traveled to that location and probably has some sort of connections and ties to the area. But my question is, did Zelensky know about this? And hear me out on this. Zelensky has been getting billions and billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars sent to him without any sort of oversight or checks and balances on these whatsoever. And President Trump was campaigning and openly saying that he was going to end that. And money would make even good people do crazy things. And I don't think Zelensky's a good person, but that amount of money would make good people do bad things. So my question is, did he know about this as well leading up to all of this? Because he has 100 billion plus reasons to not care or even support the actions of Ruth. I think the whole thing's crazy. I can't believe more people in the mainstream media are not talking about this right now.
Well, it also just kind of shows, too, yet again, like how corrupt and dishonest the other people are in Ukraine in the military. You know, why wasn't this reported further up the chain that you had somebody in the U.S. threatening to assassinate a presidential candidate? You know, even if, even though they knew Trump was going to be a thorn in their side, or potentially that we'd end this war in Ukraine, which, apparently Zelensky just really doesn't want to do, no matter how hard they're getting their asses kicked now. But why wouldn't, at the very least, you push this up the chain? Like, hey, you got some nutso in your own country right now trying to buy rocket launchers off us. And we've been funding them to the tune of billions of dollars. At least giving us the heads up would have been something. But again, I really do think this, they were probably part of it. I'm sure they were probably encouraging it. We'll probably see more. And this is probably part of why we haven't had more information released about this, because it would make their buddies in Ukraine look bad if it was confirmed they knew about this ahead of time, did nothing, or even worse, attempted to supply Ruth with the weapons, the arsenal, the missiles that he wanted to assassinate President Trump.
Well, and think about this. Let's pretend that he did know, or that Zelensky did know for just a second. Let's just pretend we don't know. This is just speculation. But he was just in the Oval Office with President Trump just a short while ago. Now let's think back to, President Trump has obviously seen the documents that we just read about that the DOJ revealed. Maybe Trump doesn't have evidence that Zelensky knew, but maybe he's seen the same thing. Maybe that's one of the reasons that, he's like, I'm drawing a line in the sand and is not going to play nice with Zelensky. It kind of puts that whole meeting in potentially anyways, in a whole new perspective when you look at that in hindsight now, as to, you're sitting there across from a guy who you're thinking, he might have known, even if he didn't help, but he knew and did not do anything to try to prevent it. But, he was kind of hoping that it would happen. That would put things in a whole new perspective as well. Zelensky's a complete turd. And, I'm excited to see now that we're getting some of these court battles out of the way here in our own country. We've got to take care of our own people first. I'm excited to see what President Trump does with that whole Ukraine situation moving forward. But I think there needs to be a full-blown investigation into this whole situation surrounding what did Zelensky himself know about this. And if not Zelensky, what did the Ukrainian government or other Ukrainian government officials potentially know about this? And then what did our own FBI and government officials know about this leading up to that and never did anything about it? And if they did not know that these things were happening, that would be almost just as concerning. But, obviously they were too busy trying to find grandmothers who were praying at the Capitol on January 6th, as opposed to actually investigating true potential terrorist activity in our own country. So there's a lot to unpack with the story. And once again, I cannot believe that the mainstream media has not even peeped about this, let alone actually covered it. I would love to see somebody who has a lot more resources than we do, you know what I mean, to fly crews all over the place and go and look into this and find out more information around this particular story here.
Yeah, well, the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about this at all, or the other potential assassination attempt or the other assassination attempt on President Trump. They want to just ignore this, sweep it under the rug, pretend it never happened, just like all leftist violence. Their violence is words, while our words are violence. That is their position. They're sticking to it, and there's no changing that. Let's go ahead and pull this next story, though, too, because we're about out of time here. Doge officials unveil shocking fallout from Biden's mass immigration. Millions of migrants on Medicaid, thousands now on voter rolls and voting. Again, this is something we knew, has already been hinted at, and I think at the end of the day we're going to find out there are millions of illegal aliens placed on our voter rolls, not hundreds, not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but millions, because we heard numerous stories. We had evidence of them signing up illegal aliens to vote at multiple locations as they bust them around the country. So this is something that, if true, we need to take a stand on this immediately, despite the fact that, let me go ahead and pull my next headline here. Wait, never mind. We'll get to that in a second. This is something we already knew has gone on. It's clearly illegal. And the fact that we have people trying to prevent these changes from happening, from removing illegal aliens from voter rolls, people demanding that we continue to pay welfare benefits to illegal aliens, continue to pay for their Medicare and Medicaid. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Like, when are we going to say enough is enough and we're just going to end all this because it harms America and the American people?
Absolutely. And the left can say whatever they want to. Oh, that's not true. There's evidence. There's video evidence of independent journalists. I think James O'Keefe even did something about this. I could be wrong. Maybe it wasn't him, but there's definite video evidence of people going around interviewing these illegals, asking them, if they're getting any of these benefits. They're all spilling the beans because they don't even understand that what's happening should not be happening, because they were advertised to come here, they were paid to come here, they were transported there, they were put up into government housing, all these sorts of things, and they were asked point blank, are you receiving Medicaid, are you receiving these benefits, and they were all saying yes. They were even talking about the exact dollar amount that they're receiving. So and it wasn't one, it wasn't two. I mean, we're talking countless of them were interviewed in different locations admitting to this. And so there's no way of denying the fact that is happening, and or was happening anyways. And once again, though, the left is defending it and saying that Doge should not have access to try to prevent those things from happening. I just don't understand why that's an issue that the left is clinging to. I really don't. But I'm hoping that President Trump deports enough people that it actually sways the Electoral College, because that's something else. Everybody talks about the illegals voting, which we know that some of them are. Okay, we know that, but legally they're not allowed to. But they're getting around that. But what they are legally allowed to do, there's no denying this, is that they are counted in the census. In the census, the population is how they determine how many congressional reps each state gets. Therefore, how many votes in the Electoral College each state is worth. And so that is a fact. I mean, President Trump tried to get that overturned the last time, ran out of time in terms of the court battle. I don't think it ever went to the Supreme Court. But and the left is arguing that, well, the census says that every person there should be counted. Well, obviously, I think it was common sense at the time when they started the census that they meant every U.S. citizen who's here legally should be counted, not every random person who just happened to show up. But that's one of the games that they're playing to boost that. The California, New York. I just read a study on this over the weekend. California, New York, and a couple other blue states would be the ones that would lose multiple votes and multiple congressional reps if they were to take those people out of the census. That is something that we need to start pushing. I know it seems a long ways away. We're halfway to the next census. It's 2025. Yeah. The next one will be done in 2030. We've got to get this corrected before the next census thing takes place, and the next electoral college maps and such are drawn for the next 10 years. It's a major issue in our country.
Yeah, and again, I think this is another one. The American people are clearly going to side with Republicans. Everybody knows you shouldn't be counting illegal aliens to fictitiously boost your population and therefore get more representation, that you're manipulating the system. So it's time for these Republicans to put on their big boy pants, start pushing some of this legislation through, and make the Democrats own it. If they want to continue counting illegals on the census, make them go out there and argue for it and push them down even further in the polls and help collapse their support anymore. We can't play nice with these retards. It's time for us to actually fight back. To your earlier point, and I can't remember the exact amount, I was trying to look it up, but California just had to take out huge loans to the tunes of billions of dollars. I want to say it was around $45 billion to cover the Medicaid for the illegal aliens within their state, and that's just for the previous and upcoming year. So this is the net effect, and they want you to pay for it out of your federal tax dollars. If California wants to be stupid and pay for force this burden upon their own people, well, I guess that's their prerogative until they're all deported. If they were smart, they'd try to solve the problem, push these people out of the country, and get things back stabilized and under control. Especially again with California's spending problem and budget problem and everything else. This should be something that's an easy victory that would help stabilize their state. But, the left's made this deal with the devil, and that's all they care about is power.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Creative Divas over here, thank you for the thing that you posted in there about the illegals getting up to, for confirming, that it's up to $998 a day fined for not leaving. And then Thaddeus says, if illegals turn themselves in, we'll feed them until we deport them. Problem solved. I think that's a fair. Exactly. I think that's a fair thing. And we should I can
go with that compromise.
Absolutely. And honestly, you know what? It would be cheaper to offer them some incentives. Like not only will we feed you as we are deporting you, like we will deport you with if you come turn yourself in or whatever, like we will deport you with dignity. Like you won't be on a chartered flight, like a yellow school bus version sort of thing. Like we'll put you on a real flight, like you'll be comfortable, like we'll get you out of here. Like I'm fine with doing that if they're going to work with us to deport themselves, if you will, because it would probably be much cheaper to even do that as opposed to having to shackle these people and hunt them down and all these other sorts of things. We will deport you with dignity. All you got to do is come and turn yourself in. And you will be allowed to get back in line to come here the legal and proper way. But if we have to round you up and deport you, you should be banned for forever. And I know that I think so. They said a 20-year ban. No, banned for forever. You're never allowed to come back to the United States of America. And honestly, I would even argue that neither should your children. You are cut off from America unless you get out now. And that's where I'm at with it. And there should be no exceptions. We got to draw a hard line, and we got to be stern with this. This is not the time to be soft-hearted for people who illegally invaded our country.
Well, 19 Democrats have decided that they value illegal aliens over the American people and over the vote. 19 state attorney generals sue Trump admin to stop election integrity executive order and allow illegal aliens to vote. Arizona's Democrat SOS and AG announced plan to save their rigged elections. But, again, this is par for the course. They don't care about what's right or protecting you as Americans, protecting your rights. They want your vote diluted, and all they care about is control. I've made it very clear. And again, the fact that there's 19 AGs that are willing to do this should be appalling. The fact that, again, they care more about the invaders than they do about the American people, about the integrity of their elections, that this is just a desperate move to cling to power. And actually, I want to go ahead and pull this up, the story we skipped to, because this is just freaking hilarious. Racist Democrat Jasmine Crockett argues that the U.S. needs illegal aliens because we done picking cotton. unbelievable. Again, if the Republican had said this, it'd be the only thing you heard about on the news from now until the election in 2026.
And obviously she said it in her ghetto accent, because she's like Kamala Harris in terms of the chameleon accent. Depends on who she's talking to. Her accent changes because the whole thing is
switching.
The whole thing is fake with her. But yeah, I mean, she basically, and not only that, it's a racist comment to pretend that anyone who comes to our country is they're only capable of picking crops. I mean, that is such a stereotypical racist thing to say. I mean, there's a lot of these people who come here the legal, proper way, who have been absolute, pillars of their community, business owners, not only capable of digging potatoes, if you will. I want to give a quick shout out to Divergent Teen in the Rumble chat. Divergent says, when are we going to give veterans the health care that illegal aliens are getting? And that is an excellent question. And I agree with that 100%. That should be the standard. I mean, we're going to give veterans the same care as we've been giving illegals. That'd be a huge upgrade for our veterans. So thank you for that comment.
Well, yeah, all this money saved, it ought to be repurposed to make things right for our veterans, get them the care they need, whether it's medical care, mental health, get them back on their feet, off the street. That should be America's priority. And then we need to end this unlimited support for illegal invaders that are destroying our country. And then maybe we need to consider deporting some Democrats that are already here that hate America. All right, guys, we are unfortunately out of time for the day. But please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. We'll be back tomorrow with even more.